I study history a little bit as well, just for fun. I don't think we're ever going to reach that utopia here. I just don't see it. I've seen the wickedness and evil of man on such levels that I don't think we're ever going to reach that utopia. I do think that we should question capitalism, because capitalism is the root of a lot of these fucking ills, bro. It is point blank and simple. So for people to say, well, it's always going to be this way, we're never going to, no, that's bullshit. Because if it wasn't capitalism, we wouldn't have a lot of these fucking problems, right? If we were trained to think that it doesn't matter to have Jordans and fucking Lexuses, that doesn't matter. What matters is community. What matters is connectedness. What matters is making sure that we all eat the same, that none of us go to bed hungry, if that children are born healthy, that mothers can survive childbirth, right? If we value those things instead of collecting fucking material possessions, a lot of the suffering goes away. That's on us. We have that choice right now. Right now, the leaders and the powers that be can decide, yo, we're not going to pursue this anymore. We have enough resources. We have way more than enough. We don't need any more billionaires and millionaires. But that's not what we want. We want what we want, our individual ego wants. So as long as we put the ego above the community, I mean, these problems are going to persist.
So hopefully you get the spirit of this show, right? Like, I love asking the questions because I think what you're saying is super interesting. So I like probing it and asking. So let me kind of ask about that on like a micro, macro level. So on a very micro level, somebody might say like, I love everything you're saying, I buy it, but where do we draw the line? Like even us right now, like you just said, let's say you and I believe everything you're saying, and like we have the opportunity to do this. I'm on my computer in my house, right? A big backyard. You're on your phone. You have earpods in. Like, why are we doing that stuff? Why do we even like? We're part of it, aren't we? So, like, how do you actually break from it? How do you think of it on that level?
Man, yo, that's a great question, and this might be the one you kind of stumped me because I think about this all the time. Think about this shit all the time. I don't like I hate when people tell me, oh, well, Paul, like you're part of the problem because you live in Queens. Like I fucking chose to fucking get like I had no direction and no decision on where I was born or what hemisphere I happened to be born on. You know, like it is what it is. I do think that I try to take positive steps that are in alignment with the way I view the world. And I'm not going to bore you, but my life is full of volunteering and all types of ways that I give back and I try to create this world that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, and I'm going to say this early because it bears repeating if anyone is even listening to this, it's not as big as you think it is. If you're even a little bit intrigued, then you know what? I think that there's some value here. There is some value in community-based. There is some value in maybe bucking the trend of what the direction we're going. It doesn't have to be such crazy. You don't have to donate $5,000. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be the world's biggest volunteer. There's so many micro levels and micro ways you can affect change. And I think people just have to buy into that. You don't have to give up your house.
Right.
You don't have to live like a pauper. You can enjoy things. You can enjoy nice things, and you can still be a part of like solution-based efforts, you know?
See, it's such a good answer too, because it segues beautifully to the more macro point I was going to make is that, so you and I think are very similar in this. Like I struggle with this a lot too. Like I want to be a better person, but then I'm like, well, am I doing this right? Should I be, you know? But the issue I run into is it becomes so subjective, right? Like you're exactly right. There's little things you could do. Do the things that make sense for you to give back and to help in the areas you think are most important. And just to tie it back to Musk for a second, or Tim Cook or whoever, that's where I struggle, right? Because if there's not an objective right, if it is subjective, right? Everybody has their own view of how they're making a difference. And maybe Elon Musk or whatever, maybe he thinks if I buy Twitter and I kind of fix this censorship, whatever issue, like that, when you net it all out, that's going to be net positive, greater than if I just, you know, volunteered or donated or whatever. And although people could say that's wrong, because we never know for sure, it leaves this ambiguity, which says, how can I actually judge? How can I actually say that person's doing it wrong, this person's doing it right? Even capitalism, right? I agree on many levels that capitalism inherently is built on the idea that we have to grow. Growth is above all else, and people are gonna have to put in some suffering to get that growth. But when it's subjective, how do you ever get to the point of confidence to say, hey, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right?
I think an easy marker for me is to take a fine look at what exactly, what efforts are you making, where are they going, and what are you doing with your time otherwise, right? So there's a lot of people who will, like, you know what, I do have extra, I'd like to give back. Let me get into philanthropy, right? So who am I to say that a philanthropic person is wrong for how they spend it? Anybody would say, oh, that's noble, that's nice. But if you're contributing to the same problem that you're donating money to, then it's like, well, let's take a look at your actions, right? Like, are you starting the fire and then giving money to the firemen? Mm-hmm. How about not start the fire to begin with? Like, how about that? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to hold people accountable, man. And powerful people do not like to be held accountable.
That is true.
It's ego, bro. All ego, man. But like, if you jump on Twitter right now and you jump onto any Elon Musk post, there are thousands of replies of people defending him. Mm-hmm. Thousands. Who are you to tell Musk how to spend his money? Who are you to? He does this. He does all this good. Hey, but how much harm does he cause? Begin with, how much harm does he cause? What if instead of trying to build rocket ships and fucking futuristic cars, he gave all that money to existing communities and coalitions that were doing the grassroots works in poor communities right now? What if he did that? You know how much change would be affected if he did that? But no, his idea of how to change the world is building fucking rocket ships and cool looking cars. I think that's bullshit. Some people will argue with me, but you know?
Well, that's where I come to on this is firstly frustration, which it sounds like you have too, of like, and frustration on a number of levels, right? Frustration in unnecessary suffering, most importantly, full stop. Because like you said before, if you're human, you should never want to see anybody suffer that doesn't have to suffer. But also frustration philosophically of like, I need a fucking answer. Like I need to know a clear answer so that I can say for sure, hey, here's the way to do it. Here's the blueprint. And my fear is there is no answer. There is no clear cut. The debate you just spoke about, those thousands of people defending Elon Musk, they're going to go about their day continuing to think this fucking guy, Paul, man, he doesn't get it. Like he's so in the clouds. He's idealistic. And I don't know, maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong, but we will never know for sure. I don't think. And that like, when you zoom all the way out and you think about life and the world, like, how do you get through the day and not just be like, what the fuck am I? There's a Tolstoy quote. I'll say this. That I read, which resonates so deeply with me. He said something like, if I don't know who I am and why I'm here, then life is impossible. And to me, that kind of speaks to it. Like, if we don't have answers to these questions, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Like, how are we supposed to make it through the day and figure this out?